And welcome back to Age of Empires 2 Definitive Edition History Lessons. Today we're doing the Saracens. The name Saracen applied originally to nomadic desert peoples from the area stretching from modern Syria to Saudi Arabia. In broader usage, the name applied to all Arabs of the Middle Ages. These desert nomads erupted suddenly in the 7th century and established a far-reaching empire within a century and a half. Their conquest was fueled by faith and high morale. Following the teachings of the Prophet Muhammad, their intent was to change the religious and political landscape of the entire planet. By 613, the Prophet Muhammad was preaching a new religion he called Islam. Largely ignored in his home city of Mecca, he withdrew to Medina, built a strong following there, and returned to attack and capture Mecca. Following his death in 632, his teachings were collected to form the Quran, the Islamic holy book. In 634, his followers began their jihad, or holy war. Within 5 years, they had overrun Egypt, Palestine, and Syria. The tolerance of Jews and Christians eased their conquest because these people had been suffering some persecution under the Byzantines. In the next 60 years, both North Africa to the west and Persia to the east fell to Islam. In the early 8th century, Saracens and Tangiers invaded the Iberian Peninsula and conquered the Visigoth kingdom established there after the fall of Rome. In Asia, they took Asia Minor from the Byzantines and attempted to capture Constantinople with a combined attack from land and sea. The great walls of the city frustrated the land attack, and the Saracen fleet was defeated at sea. In the west, Charles Martel of the Franks stopped the Saracen invasion of modern France in 732 at Poitiers. Frustrated in the west, the forces of Islam turned east. By 750, they had conquered to the Indus River in north, over India into Central Asia to the borders of China. In 656, the Muslim world fell into civil war between two factions, the Sunnites and the Shiites. Yeah, that's right. They differed on several points, including who would be caliph and interpretation of the Quran. The result of the 60-year war was the Islamic State broke into pieces, some governed by the Sunnites, the Iberian Peninsula, and others by the Shiites. Egypt and modern Iraq. Or was that sheiks? I don't remember. The new Islamic states acted independently thereafter. Muslim Spain developed into one of the great states of Europe during the early Middle Ages. Muslims, Jews, and Christians lived together in relative harmony, and a rich culture rose out of these multiple influences. There was a flowering of the arts, architecture, and learning. By 1000, however, Muslim Spain had divided into warring factions. The Civil War facilitated the slow reconquest of the peninsula, the Reconquista, by the emerging states of Castile and Aragon, completed finally in 1492. Asia Minor and the Middle East were conquered by Muslim Turks in the early 11th century. In response to a call from aid from the Byzantines, a series of crusades was launched from Europe to regain Palestine from the Turks. The independent Muslim states in the area lost Palestine and eastern Mediterranean coast to the First Crusade. In the last part of the 12th century, the great Saracen leader Saladin succeeded and reunited Egypt, Syria, and smaller states, and he retook Jerusalem. The Muslim states remained independent long after the Middle Ages and eventually developed into the modern Arab nations of the Middle East and North Africa. They went into economic decline, however, when the European nations opened trade routes of their own to Asia in the 15th and 16th century. Alright, that's it. I'll be back next over the slab. See you then. Have a great day.